On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there is having themselves a great day. What is going on in the world right now, to me, is just strange on so many levels. I'm sure you agree with me. I mean, right? It's just craziness. But a lot of times you've got to wonder, is there really like a component of this that's evil? I think so. I do. And I don't mean that to sound crazy, and I'll kind of get into that because there seems to be this next level side to this. I don't understand how or why. A lot of people are like, well, Trump, he's so good at 5D chess, and he pushed a button and Ruth Bader Ginsburg just went, right? Like, I'm 100% sure that's not how this plays out. Did they suddenly say, all right, she can't have any more meds? And then no. So the timing of this is very interesting. Now, are there maybe handlers, controllers around RBG that maybe can help pull the plug, kind of like Michael Jackson's doctor, just as an example? Not that he did that, but as an example. He only got like 2 years, I think. Anyway, right? What is going on in the world right now? And I keep thinking to myself, if there is evil, how does it work? Is it the type of thing that does shake your hand and say, yeah, totally going to do this? And then it's got its fingers crossed behind it, and then just bam, just like stabs you in the back the first second it gets? It seems to be kind of how my experience of people of that ilk have come across. And it seems that the Democratic Party right now is in a bit of a quandary, has a bit of a problem, and really it's 100% their fault. I mean, really, one of the first key mistakes, and this is why I think a lot of people are trying to lay the blame on the right. Again, they're so good at projecting, but one of the things that happened prior to the election of Hilary Clinton and Trump is there was, of course, one more Supreme Court nominee that needed to be made. And instead of doing it then, the Republicans threw up their hands and said, oh, that's unfair. You should wait until after the election. And the Democrats, being as arrogant as they were, said, all right, we can do that. We'll wait until after the election. No problem. We got this in the bag. You guys don't know how badly we're going to cheat. And the Republicans were like, I don't think you actually know how much we've messed with that. And so the election ensued. Trump won, which, by the way, is a byproduct of Hillary being a horrible candidate. Trump wins. Now all of a sudden, oh my God, everything's screwed up. Our 16-year plan has got to get fixed. We've got to come across a way. So the Democrats have no problems saying, hey, I disagree with you, and I'll do anything I can to win back power, because the way I see it, getting control, getting power is the most important thing. You don't understand how stupid you are. And so because of that, I need to make decisions for you. And that is really kind of the premise, in my opinion, of where evil comes into play. The idea of free will was something that bothered the angels that fell, was it not? The angels were jealous of the fact that man had free will. And so they thought they could control man, but in reality, man always has the choice: choose evil or to choose good. When you choose evil, you are evil. When you choose good, you are good. So taking away someone's choices is not what God does. In fact, God specifically gave us the powers over those things, didn't he? So what's interesting right now is a lot of people talk about it being about Trump v. Biden. No. And I agree with the American thinker on this point. It's about civilization versus anarchy. Now, I don't totally agree with that component. I mean, yeah, I do in its face value, but I think it's actually deeper than that. I think there's a component of those who want to control and even be controlled, frankly. I mean, they fall into that group too. I mean, if you're willing to be like, I will do as you say, all right, go over there. Don't even talk to me. I don't have time for you. But for those of us that actually like to do things, Second Amendment, like to actually not tread on others, but certainly do not want to be tread upon ourselves, well, it's a little bit different. So I see it kind of a bit more akin to that than just civilization versus anarchy. The number of anarchists that exist in the world, proportionately to those of us that enjoy civilization, redundant maybe, it's significant, right? There's way more of us that enjoy things kind of flowing in a groovy kind of way than those that don't. But just as to give a quick example, some of my Democratic friends have now asked me, how can I possibly consider voting for Donald Trump in light of his vulgar comments about women and his alleged disrespect for fallen American soldiers? The answer is that the election is not about Donald Trump or Joe Biden. It is about the future of the United States, and this is true. The renowned historian of Victor David Hansen's Plague Panic and blah, 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 blah comes down to the fact that there's these woke Democrats, but that's what they're terming people that they've sort of promoted to be these like virtuosos, these moral virtuosos, these virtuosity, whatever, these moral police, these people that believe so strongly in their crazy, whacked out, small percentage ideology, and then have thusly been empowered. Now they run around thinking that everybody else should follow this. And most of us are like, haha, it's cool. You can do whatever you want in your house. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me. But the second you come up in my face and tell me what I got to do or how I need to behave or I need to put my hand in a position, that is where you lose me. That is where the argument is done. So what seems to be kind of evolving right now is we've got a Democratic Party that's starting to realize, hey, things aren't going well. The people are actually hating all these riots. These riots are causing problems. We've got to do something about this, and somehow we need to be able to claim credit. Now, when you've had over 100 days of riots and Portland's fires, all that good kind of peaceful protest, when that kind of stuff's going on for 100 days, you have a point where maybe you don't trust your leadership, right? You have this point where you start to realize that, they're not really here looking out for me. The guy just fired the police chief, right? People are literally throwing Molotov cocktails into businesses. This is not good. So they realized it polls poorly. Apparently, people don't like it when you catch everything on fire, especially stuff they own. I don't know. Who would have thunk it? I didn't. I wouldn't have guessed in a million years that people hate it when you walk up and just smack them in the face. That's so weird. That angers you, Very strange. So this 50-day siege at the White House seems to have fizzled, which is very interesting. I found this to be fascinating. Now, is it fizzled permanently? Doubtful. Do I think that maybe they looked at it and said, 50 days might be too long? I'm figuring by day 22, people are going to be like, this sucks. This is ridiculous. You guys are causing problems. You need to get the heck out of Dodge. So maybe it's been delayed. Who knows? But what it does show is that there is organization. You don't just have a bunch of people that are just running around willy-nilly, all on their own. Nobody says anything to any. They just show up. It was a Twitter. You saw no, it's not like that. They decided it polls poorly. Now, all of a sudden, the riots have stopped or slowed down. Wow, that is so strange. It's almost like you have some control over it. Now, when you start to run into that problem with the people, what can you resort to? Well, there's the idea that everyone's starting to open stuff back up right now. We got the election right around the corner. What would be better than somehow coming out with better, higher COVID cases all of a sudden, right? All of a sudden, if we could somehow just throw a few elevated COVID cases. There was a story I saw. I couldn't find it and went looking for it. I saw it earlier this morning. But it showed this college or whatever that tested 13 athletes. And like 2 of them actually ended up being positive when they said originally 13 were positive and it was false. And they went back and retested them and only 2. Now they had the percentage and that's what they ran with, 650% or something stupid like that. But the fact is, it's really easy to get numbers to suddenly change. There seems to be a lot of people that are on board with trying to do anything in their power to kill this movement of getting our freedoms back. So this ad here, or this article, I should say, governments will impose new lockdowns if they think they can get away with it. There is nothing about this that's incorrect. This is 100% right on the money. People want to go back to work, but we've got a lot of these tyrannical mayors and whatnot that are messing everything up. And in some cases are allowing these protests to happen. And you, like me, are thinking to yourself, well, how the hell? Why? How can we stop this? Well, I can't just go out there myself. There's no Second Amendment clause that allows me to leave my house and start being all vigilante, at least, especially in California anyway. What can I do? Oh, that's right. First off, vote people into office that believe in the Constitution, believe in freedom, and actually believe in who we, the people, are. That helps, just because there's an election coming up. I just thought I'd remind you. But also, when you have people like that in office, feds explored possibly charging Portland officials in unrest. Now, this is AP News, a couple other articles I saw that were all similar, and they were very happy with this explored past tense terminology. Again, mainstream media. They're telling about it because they kind of have to, because otherwise Trump will talk about it. Maybe he already did. But it comes down to the fact that the Justice Department explored whether it could pursue either criminal or civil rights charges against city officials in Portland, Oregon, after clashes erupted there night after night between law enforcement and demonstrators, a department spokesman said. Now, one thing that's really important about this, there we go, I think, the administration has made the cynical decision that the suffering of others is politically beneficial regardless of the cost, he said. The people of this city and throughout the nation will not be intimidated, and I remain committed to doing my part as mayor to work with local partners to advance racial justice and address the pandemic and economic challenge, blah, blah, blah. Right? So it's coming down to this pain point right now. This is Portland, Ted Wheeler's, the mayor, saying all this crazy stuff. He's not going to let anyone come in and tell him what to do. Well, as it plays out, when he tells the cops to stand down when a federal building's being attacked and federal troops come out and actually used tear gas, which is funny because he's recently, as the in charge of the police chief now, Ted Wheeler is in charge of the police chief because the police chief quit. So now he's in charge. And he said, all right, I've made a new rule. No more tear gas ever by anybody, period. End of story. Aren't I awesome? Cling, right? And in reality, the federal troops come in and use tear gas, so they don't care. So this is all kind of leading into the weird thing that kind of happened on Friday, which coincidentally was the 18th of September, which coincidentally fell into the Q thing. How the hell did they possibly know? And I'm not saying it was Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death that was the big story. Maybe it more had to do with the feds exploring or explored the idea of doing something. Who knows? But whatever the case is, everyone's freaking out right now because, again, the election last time, Republicans threw up their hand. They said, hey, you should wait. They never thought Hilary would lose. They're like, all right, we'll wait to vote in the Supreme Court until after the election. And they got duped because, again, they got complacent. They got arrogant. They thought they were going to win. So now they're saying you shouldn't do it. You should wait. You shouldn't have anything like that happen. And a lot of people are even saying, well, it's impossible to do it in 45 days. There's no way. That's never happened in the history of the world except for these three people. These three Supreme Court nominees that actually happened in under 45 days. Which, by the way, under Bill Clinton, Ruth Bader Ginsburg happened to have been done in 42 days. Oddly, wouldn't it be almost ironic in a weird kind of way if her replacement was actually in prior to 42 days? But other than that, we had O'Connor under Reagan that did it in 33 days. And under the Ford administration, Stevens was in there in 19 days. Hello, that's super duper fast. So apparently, if you can get everybody on board, you can actually get some things done pretty quickly. Now, obviously, the left has erupted in all sorts of craziness, right? And their favorite things to throw out there are they're going to come and take your abortions away from you or whatever. I actually don't think that's necessarily, I mean, no offense. For those of you that are super, super religious and all that, and that are super against abortion, it sucks, it's wrong, it's horrible. I think that's a reasonably small percentage of people. And I think we've got other things that we're concerned about, like Second Amendment, like actually, spying on Americans. Like there's a whole bunch of other things that are coming way before the idea that we're going to talk about abortion is ever coming up. But the people on the left are making it sound like they're coming for your coat hangers, right? Like that's what they're after right now. And it's absolutely ridiculous because I don't think is really what's going on, but they are freaking out. If McConnell jams someone through, which he will, there will be riots, says Laura Bassett. And she follows up with, more bigger riots, right? And that was a good correction because, how do you top what? There's going to be riots. It's like, what? Again? Oh, no. Bigger ones this time. They're huge. They'll be like, you haven't seen anything yet. Okay, thanks, Laura. This is it. It's the effing fight of our lives. Well, Samantha B., thank you. What about Reza Aslan? He sounds like a guy we can trust. If they even try to replace RPG, we burn down the entire effing thing down. Yeah, over our dead bodies, literally. Might happen with you, unfortunately, sir. And then Joe McCarter. I mean, seriously. This total waste of skin and oxygen doesn't even let a day pass before it declares war. Like, oh my God. So this is who we're dealing with on the left. My younger brother sent me an awesome little Twitter picture or the video of people freaking out. It was kind of funny, but it was like, I'm not going to play that. But what is interesting in my mind is it's McConnell's pledging to bring up the confirmation of the new SCOTUS in the first Senate vote. He's like, yeah, Trump's got someone in mind. I'm going to check him out. I'm going to give him a vote. President Trump's nominee will receive a vote on the floor of the United States Senate. Now, was it 52, right? 52 that are Republican, 48 the other side, right? And so we'll see how it plays out. It's a vote, but the fact that he's bringing it up is pretty awesome. Now, do these guys decide that they're going to wait until, or do the Republicans maybe play a little bit dirty, kind of like the Democrats seem to? I mean, is this one of those places where, hey, you guys agreed to it. There's no law. We just asked you and you said, okay. We said, hey, don't do it until after the election. You guys are like, all right, we got the election in the bag. All right, we'll wait. And it messed you up. Got you in the butt. There you go. What are you going to do? So again, people are freaking out. And so what's kind of funny, we got Rachel Maddow doing her little, she's talking to, what's his face? I had his name on my tip of my lips earlier. Hey, who cares? He's irrelevant. He's the most important nobody ever to walk the face of the earth. But we've got Rachel Maddow talking about how freaking crazy people are thinking right now. Let's check it out.
One of the reasons I wanted to speak with you, Senator Booker, is because I feel like you have a curiosity and interest and devotion to making sure that moral considerations are not only part of what everybody keeps to themselves about their political decision-making, but moral considerations are discussed and moral considerations are put forward and kept in the argument so that we know that we're talking about things that have value and that aren't just about power. Senator McConnell has said gleefully before the passing of Justice Ginsburg that, of course, if there was a vacancy while President Trump was in office, even if it was, 5 minutes before the election, of course he would fill it. He's been publicly gleeful and has actually even raised funds on the basis of the fact that he would be rankly hypocritical in his approach to a Supreme Court vacancy with a Republican president in office versus a Democratic president in office. And that sort of excitement about it, that sort of glee in putting forward that it is about power and nothing else, that there is no principle at work, that I will do what is necessary to maximize my party's power no matter what. And anybody who falls for any idea of a principled decision about these things is a sucker who I will
maximize the party. You mean like you guys do every single chance you can? You stack the deck every single freaking chance you get. But yet, the second there's a chance someone can stack it against you, oh, yeah. Thank you, Rachel.
Gleefully take advantage of.
Gleeful.
That performative power politics and sort of rising the rule of might makes right is something that I feel like we're living through now in Republican politics and in the Trump era. It's also something that I don't feel like I have very much clarity at all as to what's the best tactical way to fight back against it and to what's the moral way to fight back against it. I mean, do Democrats such as yourself on the Judiciary Committee stick to your principles and do what's right and be institutionalists and think about the Constitution and think about the country and get taken advantage of because of it when they're playing pure power on the other side? How do you defend against the kind of politics you're up against if it really is just about seizing control?
They call it seizing control. Again, that's what's so funny about it. Pot, kettle, hello, have you guys met each other? You should seriously talk. It's fantastic how similar you guys are. Again, this is the way they see their world. This is their fear. This is their control apparatus. They have to have total control. Anybody that messes with that, well, they're either the complete and total enemy. They're either totally trying to take control. They're trying to take all the good stuff out of food. They're taking your ice cream away. Like, they're all that stuff. They're horrible people. And so, again, Democrats are doing everything in their power to try to keep the Republicans from doing the thing that they would do it instantly. If they controlled the Senate and controlled the House, this would get railed through. It would be the fastest political thing. What's also funny is people are calling out President, I'm sorry, Vice President, sorry, Biden. Oh, that was a bad slip. Vice President Biden, they're saying, like, who would you put into office? He won't even do a list. He's just like, well, I think you should wait. That's the proper blah, blah, blah. Shut up, Biden. Now, another person that I would want to say, shush. He's a senator. I'm going to be nice. Biden's a vice president. Who cares? No one cares about him. Chuck Schumer, though, he's calling for blocking the SCOTUS vacancy quote, until we have a new president. Yeah, you'd like that scrawny face, wouldn't you? Apparently, just hours after the death of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, that's a lot of name, Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, is saying that the vacancy left behind shouldn't be filled by President Trump, be it in his second term as president or otherwise. So it's like, let's just leave that filled vacant, until you're out of office one way or the other. Thanks, Chuck Schumer. The American people should have a voice in the selection of their next Supreme Court justice. Therefore, this vacancy should not be filled until we have a new president. So there you go. It's their way or the highway. Everything is about getting power back. Yet they're the first ones to point fingers back. You ever do that whole, you point a finger and you got three coming back at you? You guys ever seen that one? That's what they do. They're masters at it. And again, here's Chuck Schumer just demonstrating, like, if we had the power right now, we would shaft you and replace that person way before the president ever came in. The only reason they gave us that last time was because they didn't think they were going to lose. So what's interesting is Lindsey Graham says he backs Trump in any effort to move forward on RBG vacancy. It's a very big point right now. One, the fact that there's some unity. There's a little bit of people coming in behind, but he's supporting the president in any effort to move forward concerning the vacancy left by the Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. As chair of the Senate Judiciary Committee, Graham would preside over confirmation hearings for the president's choice to fill Ginsburg's seat. And as he says on his Twitter, the two biggest changes regarding the Senate and judicial confirmations that have occurred in the last decade have come from Democrats. Harry Reid changed the rules to allow a simple majority vote for circuit court nominees dealing out of the minority. Chuck Schumer and his friends in the liberal media conspired to destroy the life of Brett Kavanaugh and hold that Supreme Court seat open. In light of these two events, I will support President Trump's in any efforts to move forward regarding the vacancy created by passing the Justice Ginsburg. Now, I keep wondering if the reason they're doing this is to take news cycles away from what was, again, coming out. Fed's doing this kind of stuff. Maybe two for sure, but probably three people that we're expecting to see kind of get indicted. I think we're expecting some more excitement coming next week. Is it possible that for some reason they're looking through the looking glass and somehow able to see that this was going to happen? And when Q said the 18th was going to be a significant, the 12th through the 18th, 14th through the 18th, whatever it was. 18th was the end of it. Oddly, the day when some crazy stuff happened, and a lot of stuff happened during that week. Now, McEnany, we love this woman. The onus is on Biden to release his Supreme Court nominee list. And I think that's a really big, important thing that's not getting talked about. Who's this guy going to vote for? Who's Biden voting for? Who does he want as the nominee? Is he going to show that card? Because if he does, people are going to know it's this crazy, radical, progressive nut job. And of course, it's going to be a person of color and a woman. So again, it's not necessarily who's best for the job. They need to fit a certain role and a certain sex, all that stuff. So who is it, Biden? Who's your top choice? Because your VP choice sucked bad. And I think you're going to pay the even bigger price for that, on top of the fact that you're somewhat held back in your own capacity. So it's going to be very interesting to see if he comes out with, can he even meet this request, which is a legit request. And if you guys are going to complain about, you shouldn't be able to do this until a new president's there, well, then let us know, Mr. Biden / Harris, who's your choice? Who are you going to grab? Who are you putting in there if we accidentally vote you into office? And that is the big trick. And again, how does evil work? I don't know. But what's funny is when I looked up this picture, this is the one I downloaded, and it was 1,000 by 666. I'm like, if there's a picture that represents evil, that's pretty close to it, yeah? So again, who's really going on with all this? Is Biden going to show his hand? I don't know. But we've got a place right now where next week it's been spoken that things are going to happen. It's another big week, right? And we've seen already Rig for Red. So I'm pretty sure that was because Q went dark. I don't see anything new coming out of him. So he's being quiet. He's not saying anything. We got another week coming up that we've talked about. We've also had some very interesting targets justified and shown. And I think possibly a third one. And on top of that, we've even been given a timer somewhere down here, if I can find it. This guy here. This is right here. This clock right here has got 3 potential dates in it. You can go back to a couple videos ago if you want to hear me talk more about it. But again, there's some crazy stuff that is happening in the works. Now's the time to stick together. Now's the time to stay close to one another, help one another, offer olive branches to our fellow friends that are starting to red pill. If you want to help someone like me, which I very much appreciate, there's a PayPal link below. Anything is better than nothing. I appreciate all you guys. You're the best. Where we go one, we go all. It's on the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.